This didn't make any sense to her. How did a melody that she had locked down over the summer, last summer, suddenly appear on Jennifer Lopez's album? This was something that really bothered her.
There's a hero. No, I'm playing because that's what Mariah said about Jennifer one time. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just...
She does say that.
Yeah, she does.
She's forgetful, I guess.
Before there was a Queen Bey or a pop powerhouse with her name on perfume bottles and Super Bowl stages, there was Mariah. Not just a singer, not just a star, she was the blueprint. A woman with a 5-octave range, penning her own lyrics, producing her own records and running laps around an industry that wasn't built for women like her to win, especially not at the level she did.
I'm not singing today. I was up all night.
In the 90s, Mariah Carey didn't chase pop culture. She defined it. She was the glamorous enigma with the voice of a generation, the kind of artist people studied, admired, and tried to emulate, including a young girl from Houston who would one day be known by one name only, Beyonce. Old interviews and fan footage paint a clear picture. A teenage Beyonce once spoke of how a certain breakout ballad changed her life. A song that happened to be one of Mariah's earliest chart toppers. Back then, the admiration wasn't subtle. It was deep, direct, and almost reverential. Mariah's influence wasn't just sonic, it was spiritual. The tone, the control, the vision, it all left an imprint on a generation of young singers, including one who would go on to rule the next era.
If you look inside your heart.
But something shifted. Somewhere along the journey from fan to global icon, Beyoncé's open admiration faded to silence. No more shout-outs, no more gushing praise, just distance. And that silence, it got people talking. Had Beyoncé outgrown her idol, or had the industry rewritten the rules? Because just as Mariah's reign was subtly dimming, two stars, Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez, were suddenly everywhere. And that's when the whispers of Sabotage began.
Hi, puppy. Are you cute? Are you cute? Hi, who's this?
Beyoncé's silence on Mariah wasn't just noticeable, it was emphatically loud. The girl who once credited her musical spark to a powerhouse ballad now rarely acknowledged the woman who inspired it. And it didn't go unnoticed. Thoughtfully, fans began to wonder if something happened behind the scenes. Questioning, did Beyoncé decide Mariah no longer fit the image she was carefully building? Or did the industry simply decide it was time to pass the torch, with or without Mariah's consent? Candidly, let's be honest, Mariah's legacy is confidently undeniable. But while her voice reigned supreme, her image became trapped in a glittery December snow globe. The media boxed her in as the seasonal diva with a Santa suit and high-pitched whistle tones, while Beyoncé was being sculpted into a cultural force. Not just a performer, but a movement. The difference? Beyoncé had the machinery behind her, the visuals, the marketing, the business acumen, and yes, the right partner. One who knew how to play the industry chessboard while others were stuck on checkers. Suspiciously, then came the strange coincidences, the kind that don't feel like coincidences at all. Mariah had been working on a track, a vibrant summer anthem anchored by a unique, hard-to-license sample. She had plans for it, vision, vocals and all. And then, ironically like magic, that same sample popped up somewhere else. Not just on a different track, but on a song performed by a rising star at the same label. Dramatic pause, Jennifer Lopez. Firmly, to Mariah, it didn't feel accidental. It felt accusingly targeted. And given the timing, while she was struggling through a high-profile split with the man who ran her record label, it all started to look a little too suspiciously convenient. What happened next wasn't just personal, it was gravely professional sabotage. At the turn of the millennium, Mariah was gearing up for what should have been another win. A soundtrack, a film, a fresh era. The Glitter project was supposed to cement her as not just a singer, but a creative force across media. But instead, it became a battleground. Behind the scenes, her divorce from Sony music head Tommy Mottola wasn't just messy, it was war. And in that war, music became a weapon. Mariah had secured a rare sample, one that wasn't easy to license. She built her single around it, recorded it, and planned its release. But just before she could debut it, the track vanished from her control. That same sample, now stripped from her hands, appeared on a different song, one suddenly attached to Jennifer Lopez. And not just the sample, the entire vibe felt eerily familiar, almost like it had been lifted and repackaged. Industry insiders didn't need to guess too hard. Mottola still held the keys at the label, and according to Mariah's own later accounts, he wasn't going to let her thrive without him. The timing, the track switch, the aggressive promotion of Lopez, it all seemed too aligned to ignore. While Mariah's project was stalled, J.Lo's career was on fire, and she was climbing the same charts Mariah once ruled. The betrayal wasn't just in the business. It was in the silence that followed. Lopez never publicly acknowledged the origins of the track or the drama swirling around it. She didn't have to. The label handled the rest, pushing her image, promoting her songs, and positioning her as the next big thing. For Mariah, it wasn't just a loss, it was erasure, and it happened in plain sight. By the time Mariah delivered the now iconic line, a cool, effortless dismissal that would go viral long before viral was even a thing, the tension had already reached a boiling point. Asked casually in an interview about her thoughts on another woman dominating the charts, Mariah didn't flinch. She simply smiled and replied, "I don't know her." 3 words, instant legend. But behind the shade was something deeper: survival. That moment wasn't just petty, it was personal. Because by then, Mariah had watched pieces of her vision, her voice, and her momentum quietly transferred to someone else. While Lopez was riding a wave of major film deals, endorsement contracts, and hit singles, Mariah was battling breakdown rumors, PR disasters, and the ghost of an album that never got its shot. And yet, no one seemed to question how or why it all happened. They just moved on. The truth is, Mariah had reasons to be guarded. Her talent had been questioned. Her mental health had been scrutinized. And the very system she helped build was now working against her. So when people asked why she kept her distance, she didn't explain. She didn't cry victim. She just cut the cord, with a smile and a soundbite. Even years later, when pressed, Mariah kept the same energy. No direct jabs, no social media rants. Just the kind of sly commentary that let the world read between the lines. In one interview, when told that her supposed rival gets a full night's sleep, Mariah didn't miss a beat. "If I didn't have to sing my own songs, darling, I'd sleep 8 hours too. Ouch." But again, it wasn't bitterness, it was a warning. Mariah might be quiet, but she never forgot. While Mariah's battle played out in headlines, another story was quietly unfolding behind closed studio doors, one that wouldn't fully surface until years later. At the center of it all, Ashanti. Young, talented, and already proving herself as both a songwriter and a vocalist, Ashanti was laying down hits before the public even knew her name. But what she didn't realize then was that her voice wouldn't always belong to her, at least not in the spotlight. Whispers had long swirled around certain hit tracks released under Jennifer Lopez's name. Listeners noticed that the background vocals sounded suspiciously consistent and suspiciously not hers. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and fans started connecting the dots. Some of J.Lo's biggest songs, from slick club anthems to emotional mid-tempo bops, didn't just sound like Ashanti, they were Ashanti. Industry insiders eventually confirmed what fans had long suspected. Tracks originally written or demoed by Ashanti weren't just shelved, they were polished, repackaged, and released with minimal changes. Sometimes her backing vocals were left in, sometimes her hooks remained untouched, and in more than one case, the song itself had been intended for someone else entirely, only to be redirected at the last minute. The reasons? Business deals, label politics, and image. Ashanti didn't speak publicly at first. Like many young artists, she played the game. But time has a way of revealing truth. When she finally addressed the situation, she was calm but clear. She deserved credit. Because while one star was front and center, it was her pen, her harmonies, and her soul running through those tracks. And for every fan who thought they were singing along to J-Lo, the truth stung. They were actually vibing with Ashanti. They just didn't know it yet. In the early 2000s, it became crystal clear talent alone wasn't enough. The industry wasn't just selling music, it was selling personas, packaging artists like luxury brands. And in that game, looks, image, and marketability often trumped raw ability. Ashanti had the voice, the pen, and the range, but the spotlight wasn't hers. Instead, her sound was funneled through someone the industry deemed more bankable. Jennifer Lopez fit that mold perfectly. She was already a household name from television and film, and her label saw an opportunity to turn her into a global music icon, even if that meant using someone else's vocals to do it. While Ashanti recorded hooks, ad-libs, and entire choruses, J-Lo became the face, stepping in at the last minute to lay down a few leads and collect the credit. And it wasn't just one track, the pattern repeated. Songs that were either intended for Ashanti or built using her demos ended up on Lopez's albums. Sometimes her name never even appeared in the credits. The fans? None the wiser, the label completely in control. What mattered wasn't who sang the songs, but who could sell them. That silence, that erasure was deafening. Ashanti's vocals soared through radios, clubs, and music videos, but her name was nowhere in sight. And as J-Lo racked up hits and endorsement deals, Ashanti watched her own work climb the charts under someone else's spotlight. The message was loud and clear. The system rewards who it can sell, not always who it should. And for women like Ashanti and Mariah before her, that lesson came wrapped in contracts, secrecy, and a media machine that never stopped spinning. By the time fans began to question who was really behind some of J-Lo's biggest hits, the truth had already slipped through the cracks. In interviews, studio leaks, and late-night anecdotes from industry veterans who were finally ready to speak. One of those voices, Fat Joe. In a now infamous recollection, Joe revealed how one of Ashanti's songs, a track already recorded and locked in, was nearly pulled from her at the 11th hour. The call came in around 3 a.m., urgent and unexpected. Producers wanted him to show up immediately and lay down vocals for a hot new single. The catch? It was intended to be a duet with Jennifer Lopez. The song? A track Ashanti had already claimed. Joe showed up, laid down his part and realized the game. They weren't just making music, they were reassigning it. The plan was to replace Ashanti with J-Lo and reframe the track as a crossover anthem, trading out one voice for another, all in the name of star power. That song never ended up in Lopez's hands, but plenty of others did. Ashanti later confirmed that she not only wrote multiple hits for J-Lo, but often sang the entire chorus and arranged the vocal layers. Her sound was undeniable, her pen priceless, yet her name remained in the shadows. What makes it sting even more is how often this nearly happened. Ashanti wasn't just at risk of losing a few songs, she was at risk of losing her identity in the industry altogether. And if it weren't for her growing fan base, relentless work ethic, and eventual outspokenness, her voice might have remained invisible behind someone else's face. Zoom out for a second and you'll start to see a bigger picture. One that's less about individual songs and more about an industry pattern that's hard to ignore. Mariah Carey and Ashanti were two different artists at different stages of their careers, but they were caught in the same machine. One that knew how to bury brilliance behind image and how to silence women who didn't play along. Both women had what the industry should have celebrated: raw talent, songwriting chops, and undeniable vocal identities. But instead, they found themselves sidelined, not by lack of skill, but by a system that favored what it could control. Ashanti wrote and sang, Mariah created and produced. Yet both were forced to watch as others reaped the rewards of their labor, rebranded, repackaged, and sanitized for maximum marketability. And at the center of those rewards stood Jennifer Lopez, a triple threat in public, but increasingly seen as a vessel for other people's voices. While her star rose with back-to-back hits, whispers grew louder. Whose vocals were really behind those songs? Why did the credits feel so empty? And why were the most vocally gifted women of that era always somehow left behind? This wasn't just about one feud or one stolen sample. It was about a music industry that knew exactly what it was doing and counted on fans not noticing. Because when you control the narrative, you control the fame. And for years, the machine worked. Ashanti stayed quiet, Mariah stayed classy, and Lopez stayed winning. Or Mara Hasenkta Remiyus with Jennifer Lopez would seen as people, but silence doesn't last forever. And now, with artists finally finding their voices, not just in music but in interviews, memoirs and documentaries, the real story is starting to unravel. After decades of rumors, receipts, and quiet retaliation, the question isn't whether something shady went down, it's whether Mariah Carey is finally ready to say it out loud. Whispers from insiders suggest the pop icon has been quietly collecting her story, piecing together what the public saw and what the public missed. And now the queen of whistle notes may be preparing to use her voice in a whole new way. Some say it's a second memoir, others think it might be a documentary. But those close to Mariah hint that she's been planning something, a full circle moment, not just to reclaim her narrative, but to finally connect the dots between the sabotage, the career derailment, and the women who were allegedly used to replace her. And yes, that includes both Jennifer Lopez and Beyonce. Because here's the twist. While J.Lo may have benefited from behind-the-scenes dealings, Beyoncé's alleged shift from admiration to calculated distance didn't go unnoticed either. Fans noticed how the open praise stopped, how collaborations never came, how the influence was erased in silence, not in scandal. And if Mariah speaks, the world might finally hear how deep that silence really went. Sources say she's sitting on a treasure trove of receipts, emails, label notes, stories that never made it to press. And if she chooses to light that fuse, the entire industry might feel the aftershock. This isn't just about one sample or one song. It's about a career that was nearly rewritten and a woman who's finally ready to take her pen back. So now the questions hang heavy in the air, the kind of questions that don't just point fingers but unravel legacies. Was Jennifer Lopez a mastermind in all of this, or simply a willing face for a machine that needed her more than it needed talent? Did she know her biggest hits were stitched together from someone else's vocals, someone else's pen, someone else's vision? Or did she just smile, sign off, and let the spotlight do the rest? And then there's Beyoncé. Once a starstruck admirer of Mariah Carey, then suddenly silent. No praise, no collaborations, no acknowledgement, just distance. Did she pull away to craft her own mythos, one untouched by the messy history of her idol? Or was the industry shaping the narrative for her, clearing the path by pushing others aside? For Mariah Carey, it was never just about losing a song or a moment, it was about losing control of the story. And if the whispers are true, if she's really gearing up to tell it all, then the pop landscape as we know it might never look the same again. Because this isn't just celebrity gossip. It's the blueprint of an industry built on beauty, silence, and strategic erasure. Maybe J.Lo wasn't the villain, maybe Beyoncé wasn't the architect. But in a world where silence is currency and image is everything, it's not always the loudest voices that shape the future. It's the ones who get edited out. And if Mariah finally presses play on her full truth, the remix is going to be devastating.